After going through this video, you will be able to execute various SQL queries related to database using MySQL. In the first topic, we learned that SQL queries are used to communicate with a database. And in the previous table, we took the example of the college database and the students table to understand how the data is represented in case the data needs to be stored in a table. Now, if we want to communicate with the database and edit, store, or delete the content inside it, we have to use SQL queries for three different categories. The first category is databases, the second category is tables, and the third category is records. Let us first understand various SQL queries used for each of these categories one by one. We will start with the one that deals with the databases. To write and execute any SQL query, we need an interface that recognizes and executes them. Like, for example, we have a VS Code editor that recognizes HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, etc. Similarly, we need an interface that recognizes SQL queries. So, where can we find this interface and how can we access it? Well, you don't have to worry about it as we have already set it up in our systems. For the Windows operating system, remember while setting up the local environment, we installed XAMPP. So, using the XAMPP control panel, we can access the interface that will allow us to execute SQL queries. So, we will open our XAMPP control panel. Here, we can see several services, but for now, we are only concerned about the Apache and MySQL services. Apache, as you can recall, will help us to execute the code locally, and MySQL will take us to the interface, also called as MySQL client, where we will execute SQL queries. To use this interface, we will first click on the Start button and then the Admin button next to MySQL. And the users who are using Ubuntu, you can start the MySQL client by typing MySQL u root p on the terminal. You can copy this command from below the video, but make sure that your Apache is running. This will ask for your MySQL password. Enter it and this will take you to the MySQL client. Note that all the SQL queries you want to enter, you need to enter using this terminal only. And for Windows users, MySQL client is basically a phpMyAdmin page that looks like this. To those who are wondering what phpMyAdmin is, it is a GUI based MySQL client where we write all the SQL queries to send the requests to the MySQL server. Since it is GUI based, it displays a lot of information visually for our convenience. At a first look, things might look overwhelming, but you don't need to worry about all the features at this moment. With time and practice, you will get to know each and everything. So, here on the left side, we can see the default databases that are present on the server. At the top of the page, we can see a menu consisting of various tabs. Let's again not worry about all these tabs right now. For now, we'll explore and discuss the SQL tab. Let's click on the SQL tab and see what happens. On clicking the SQL tag, we can say the layout below the menu bar has changed. We are concerned about this text box because here we will enter all our SQL queries and using this Go button, we will execute those queries. Let's try our first SQL query to see all the databases present on the server. For this, we use show databases query followed by a semicolon. Click on Go. And here we can see all the databases present by default on the server. Congratulations on running your first ever SQL query. Notice that the databases listed on the left side and the ones we fetched are the same. Again, I will repeat that all SQL queries end with a semicolon. So please make a note of it because as a beginner, we tend to miss these small details while writing a query. Moving on, SQL is case insensitive. This means we can enter SQL queries using uppercase or lowercase or even combination of both character cases. Let me show you this with the help of an example. So a few moments ago, we used the command show databases to see all the databases that are present on the server. Even if we enter the same command without worrying about character casing like this, we will still be able to execute this command. See, we can still fetch the databases. Isn't it cool? Although we can write SQL queries using any character casing, but I would still recommend and advise you to follow only one pattern as it looks more clean and professional. Next, let's see how we can create a database in MySQL. To enter a new query, we need to click on the SQL tab. Wait, let me show you another way to enter a new SQL query without clicking on the SQL tab. We can enter the new SQL query from this same screen from where we executed the last SQL query. And to do this, we use this Edit Inline option. This option allows us to enter SQL queries without clicking the SQL tab again and again. Pretty convenient, right? Proceeding further, to create a database, we use the create database command followed by the name of the database. In this case, we have taken the name of the database as college. Now, let's click on Go. We can see the name of this newly created database college on the side panel here, where all the databases present on the server are listed. If in case you are unable to see the name of the database on the side panel, you need to refresh the browser. Now, how to create a table inside a database and how to edit data in an already existing table are something we will cover in the upcoming topics. Now, as a developer, we might have to work on several databases at a given time. So, say apart from the college database, we have demo 1, demo 2, demo 3 and demo 4 databases. Let us create them first. Now, look carefully, this is interesting. Instead of creating these databases one by selecting the Edit Inline option, we can add all the SQL queries at once but in different lines. Here, we have entered the create database demo 1, ending with a semicolon. When we end any query using a semicolon, it means that the query is closed and there is no extension to it. Now in the next line, if we add the queries to create the databases like this and click Go, it will create all the databases at once. Isn't it cool? So apart from some default databases, we have 5 new databases. Now we want to specifically work on the college database. So how do we select the college database only from the pool of all these databases? Before this, let's check which database is selected. For this, we enter select database, SQL query followed by open and close parenthesis, and let's not forget to add the semicolon. This SQL query shows the database on which we are working. If we run this, we can see the output as null, and null means nothing. This means we have not selected any database. Now, to select a database on which we want to work, we enter the use command followed by the name of the database, which is college. Once we run this command, we won't see any visible output. But to be sure that we have selected the college database, we will again enter the select database query. In the output, we can see that the college database is selected. Now, there are too many databases present and we know that we are not going to use a few in the future, like demo 1, demo 2, demo 3 and demo 4. So how can we delete these databases? To delete a database, we use drop database SQL query, which is followed by the name of the database. Similarly, as we did earlier, we can write multiple SQL queries at once to delete these databases like this. And here we go. All these databases are deleted and we can no longer see the databases on the left-hand side panel. Again, for some users, if the names are still visible on the left side, you need to refresh the web page. In the next topic, we will learn SQL queries that deal with the tables and we will be using the college database for the same. So stay tuned, but up next is a quiz. All the best.